Hey guys, a lot of you have been asking me how I've set up my TSM for the 1 gold to 10k flipping challenge. So I just wanted to make a quick demonstration of how I've set it up. So if you're interested in doing something similar, or even if you just want to improve your flipping game, hopefully this will help you out a bit. Keep note that this really won't be an in-depth guide in terms of the TSM operations available because I personally don't use many of those. However, I'll just simply show you how to set up your groups and what I personally look for when I try to find a profitable flip. If you're looking to get more of an in-depth guide on how to use TSM and how to set up all those operations that are available, feel free to check out other content creators like Samadan or Diary of a Guild Leader. They both have done pretty solid guides on that topic, so I'll put a link down below for those who are interested. All right, so on to my personal TSM. Personally, like mentioned, I don't use many functions at all. The main ones I use is obviously the group section. I personally like to group my items based off of professions. I know some people do it differently, but I think it just really what makes sense for me, and it just kind of keeps things organized. For those who don't know what groups are, it's just simply a TSM function that, well, I mean, groups a bunch of items together. So that way it makes it a lot easier when you want to search for those items or even list those items. So you can do so by simply using the group function to mass search or mass post. So that way you don't really have to do it one item at a time. In order to set up a group, you would go into the TSM customization panel, and then you'd go into the group section and import a group. Typically, you could get a pre-made group string from the TSM website where there's a database of already pre-made groups. So odds are if you're looking to create a group based off of professions like me or any pretty basic group, you can probably easily find it on the TSM website. However, if you want to make, say, a very specific group of items that for whatever reason you can't really find on the TSM website, you can create your own group string. You just simply need to find the item ID number first, and you can do that by going over to Wowhead and going into the link, and then copy the item ID number. And this will get you the item number, and then you can just paste the item number in a notepad. But you have to make sure you follow the proper group string format, which is an I, and then a colon, and then your item ID number. So typically it will look something like this. And now once you've imported the groups that you want, you can easily search for those items by selecting their group in the browse section and then just running a shopping scan. Now let's move on to my thinking and what I look for when I'm trying to identify flips that I think will be profitable. First thing I try to think of is I try to identify how the item is created. So let's take Shadow Cloth for example. This item is a great one to try and buy up and relist at a higher price because, well, there's obviously still demand for this item, but also it's gated by a cooldown. So there's always going to be a limited amount of supply coming into the game based off of that cooldown timer. So even for this example, if I would buy all of these Shadow Cloth and relist them, say at 50 gold, there's always a chance that it'll just eventually sell just because it'll take a while until people can actually craft their cooldown and then eventually undercut you. Another thing to watch out for is items that are related. So for example, if I'm looking at, I don't know, maybe Dawnstones to flip, and I want to buy these all up and relist them, say at 40 gold. What I would personally do before is I would go check and see the price of adamantite ore. Because if we see that the price of adamantite ore is cheap, people could just go ahead and buy them all out and prospect the ores in order to make gems and then undercut me. So ideally, the number one thing to do is try to identify what other items are tied to your current item that you're looking to flip and see if it makes sense based off the price of those other items as well. Now, that's to say that doesn't really mean that if adamantite ore is cheap, you'll never make money flipping Dawnstones. I mean, if it's, say, like a Tuesday or something, or maybe no one's willing to prospect the ore, there's always a chance you'll still make a killing on flipping those gems, but your chances are significantly lower just based off the fact that you could get undercut. The third thing I really like to think of when I'm searching for items is what the item is used for. And the reason I ask myself this is because let's take enchanting materials. Obviously, people buy these to enchant their gear, right? Well, typically when people need them, they'll go ahead and go to the auction house and buy up the exact amount of arcane dust, planar essences, or prismatic shards, or whatever it is, right? So realistically, if you see auctions like these where you have stacks of 20s in the middle, you could typically ignore these and buy up all these smaller stacks and then list them up in stacks of one at a high price. And the reason for that is, again, if you want to cater to what people will most likely be buying, there are some people who will buy stacks of 20s for other reasons, but in most cases, people will go ahead and pay a premium just so that they can buy the exact amount of mats needed to get their enchants done. The fourth thing I try to look at is the region daily average sold. This is really a rough estimate, and obviously sales depends on server to server. But I like to look at this number to give myself an idea of how quickly I can expect this item to sell, but also if I know the item is in a very high competitive market or the item is easily farmed, ideally I'd want it to have a lot of daily sales. If the average daily sales is low, and the item can be farmed really easily, then it might not be really the best item to flip. And lastly, another TSM function that I like to look at a lot is the smart average buy price. So what this is it just shows you the average price you've paid for an item if you still currently hold it. So for example, the spellweed I currently hold on my druid, I have 475 fellweed, and the smart average buy price shows 43 silver and 72 copper. What this means is even if I bought, I don't know, say 200 fellweed a month ago at 50 silver, and then I bought a few more, maybe a bit cheaper, and so on, overall, on average, my cost per one fellweed for all 475 that I currently have is 43 silver and 72 copper. So this is really useful if you're buying items and then kind of forget what you've paid for them, or if you've purchased and sold some items but still have a few left. So this will keep track of your cost per item. So that way I know if I wanted to resell these fellweed, I'd have to sell them for more than 44 silver to at least make a profit. I find this extremely useful since at least it doesn't force me to kind of keep track of all my costs for my items on like say a notepad next to my desk, like kind of the old days. I'm sure a lot of you can relate with that. So that way at least it makes things a lot cleaner. So these are the main functions I use. I know this was a pretty simple and basic guide, so obviously for those who already know how to use TSM, this probably won't be too useful, but hopefully this gives you a good insight on my thought process when looking at items, and hopefully you guys gained a few tricks along the way. For those looking for the next episode in the 1 to 10K gold flipping challenge, I'll try to have it posted by Friday. No promises since I've been really busy with work, but I'll try my best to at least have one episode posted on a weekly basis for you guys. So that's it for me. If you guys have any questions regarding TSM or anything else, feel free to ask me in the comments below. I really try my best to go through all of them. As always, guys, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.